huge thank you to TechNomads community for welcoming me, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you my advice when it comes to searching for a new job, which can at times be, to be honest, quite daunting and quite overwhelming. And it can be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. I've definitely been in this position many times. So, really hoping that these tips can add value to you, ease the nerves, destigmatize a few things along the way. So just a quick intro into me, who I am. My name's Ellie King, and I'm the co-founder of Equal IT, a business that I launched last October with an incredible ally of mine, Jonathan Dow, who's my co-founder. And we're very much a mission-driven business. And what we do is we work to diversify tech teams through refined talent acquisition and complementing that with diversity and inclusion consulting as well. So I've been involved in the tech recruitment space for around 9 years. I am incredibly passionate about all things diversity, equity, and inclusion through my own personal experiences, through being in the industry. And I am the host of the Equal Inspired podcast, which is a platform really to amplify the voices of non-dominant groups doing amazing work in the tech and business space, really to create relatable role models and to educate, empower, and inspire. And a big thing about me is I am a huge Harry Potter nerd, love Disney movies, big Disney nerd as well. So before we get started into, I guess, going into the job search or looking at making a CV or thinking about what kind of role could be perfect for you or a good fit, it's really important that we take the time to self-reflect and we really take the time to understand our why and just get to know ourselves again and look in the mirror, because I feel sometimes we can get so caught up in the journey of achieving goals, chasing goals, being in a career, that we don't make time for these things and we can just really get caught up in the process and sometimes maybe lose sight of who we are and that focus. So this is an exercise that I always recommend doing at any point in your career. Like I say, it helps you to reflect, helps you to gain clarity, to create a CV, or anything in terms of this job search. Now, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. So I'm not sure if anyone else follows his work, but I highly recommend checking out his talk, Start With Why. So we're about to understand our why and self-reflect. So I recommend blocking out maybe half an hour to an hour and having a pen and paper, maybe in a notebook, and taking the time to write down these points. And I think there's something just a bit more valuable when putting pen to paper. It enables you to, I guess, really reconfirm all the things that you're going to be doing. So first and foremost, think about your strengths. Now, when I say strengths, it's both from a technical perspective, but also the soft skills. So things like communication, team spirit, ambition. What do you genuinely feel that your strengths are, the areas in which you thrive? And underneath that, write down tangible examples or scenarios that really back up your strengths, that can prove that this is actually a true thing. Think about what specifically was it that you did when it comes to this strength. And also, what direct value, what impact did it have on your business, in the team, with your colleagues? So really take some time to think about that and write these down. And it's certainly not an easy thing to do sometimes when we think about the things that we're good at, but it's a really powerful tool. Next, think a little bit about the growth. Now, when I say this, it's more so areas in which you want to improve. So think about, what do you want to learn and achieve moving forwards? And really dig deeper as to why. Why do you want to learn this? So how will it benefit your career? Write that down. And how can that also add value to either your current company, the company you could be interviewing at, your just general career progression? Think about, are you already being proactive in improving in this? If yes, fantastic. Can you write down, again, tangible examples? Are you taking certifications, attending meetups, reading blog posts? It can be absolutely anything that you're doing to be proactive in this learning curve. If you're not, maybe think about why that is. What are the barriers that are stopping you from being proactive in this? Is it time constraints? Is it not really knowing what resources to go for? And think about, if you're not doing it, how can you start? What steps can you take to ensure that you're going to start this journey of learning in these areas that, as you write down, are really going to impact companies for the reasons that you reflect on? Next, it's really thinking about your values. So this is really like your non-negotiables when it comes to potentially going into a new business, the things that you care about the most, that you really stand for. And it's important to write these down because this can be so helpful going into, let's say, an interview scenario, because you can relate your own values to theirs in the business and kind of base questions around, for example, my values are really around collaboration and XYZ. How do you value that in the business, or how is it perceived? So it's some good like conversation starters as well, by just being very aware of what your values are and making sure that they're going to align to your own moving forwards. Think a little bit as well about what actually gives you fulfillment and enjoyment in your career. This is about remembering your why. So writing down your motivations for working in technology, reflecting back on that. Who or what was it that really inspired you to start this journey? What makes you most happy, the things that you work on, and why? Why is that? What feeling does it really give you? And just reflect on that and be still with that feeling. And also think about what you dislike and why that is, and write that down. And finally, once you've cultivated this really strong, powerful list of things about yourself, almost like a game plan of you moving forwards in terms of the learning process, and a really good profile to then use within a CV cover letter, which we'll talk a little bit about down the line, actually ask your friends, ask your family, and ask your colleagues on each of these areas. Because like I say, sometimes it can be really difficult to actually just self-reflect, and sometimes our inner imposter can come into things, or confidence, or just that self-belief. So by asking people who are close to you, people who collaborate with you, it's number one, reinforcing the things that you are great at. And also it's getting another perspective. They could share so many other fantastic examples that back up these different areas, or they could give you some insights and things that they feel you could work on just from a collaboration perspective, being a colleague. And it gives you a good toolkit for moving forwards. And again, so powerful for interview scenarios. When asked specific questions, you could say, actually, I had some time to self-reflect with some colleagues before coming into this interview. And in terms of my strengths, this is what I deemed them to be. But actually, this is what my colleagues said. And here's what I've done to prove that. So again, you're just really able to tell a great story. So we've taken some time to self-reflect. Now, how can we stand out in what's quite a crowded job market at the moment, especially with everything going on currently, so many layoffs and very unfortunate scenarios? It's important to do things a little bit differently and to take this into our own hands. So working on your personal brand and taking control of this is going to be a fantastic way for you to start standing out. Number one, it attracts opportunity. It enables you to network, potentially get mentorship opportunities, volunteering. You could then begin to be approached for jobs as well. It enables you to actually gain a focus on what you want to do moving forward. So you can really become an expert in your field, a specific technology, a specific methodology, an area that's passionate to you within the realms of technology. Could it be culture, things like that? And it will be aligned to your values, your own values, because you've already reflected on the things that are important to you. You're also able to really gain confidence. Working on your personal brand, you really will flourish. You'll be energized, you'll be achieving your goals, you'll start to become very recognized in the space that you're working in. And It really helps with the imposter syndrome or those feelings of self-doubt. At first, when you're working on your personal brand and you're creating content, those feelings can certainly creep in, that maybe the overthinking of posting a blog or sharing something. But in the long run, your confidence will really benefit from this and your self-belief. So it's going to take some commitment working on your personal brand. I always like the analogy of almost being an octopus, having to have your arms in many different areas just to keep churning away at it and to keep working on it. Number one, you really need to be consistent. So being relentless in working on your personal brand, finding your flow, finding what works for you and keeping at it. So something that I recommend and I've seen work really well, especially for people who are quite limited with time, and it's quite easy to sometimes forget about your personal brand. So actually book an hour once a week for you to work specifically on your personal brand. What you can do over time is you can build that up. You can maybe do 2 hours a week, 3 hours on different days, but always that you're going to be working on this and having it in mind. So you're being consistent with it. You're also going to need to be authentic. So really be true to yourself. Always take the time to self-reflect and to really challenge yourself, challenge your ideas. Again, it's that whole concept of being able to continually look in the mirror. Think about how can you always improve? How can you challenge yourself and your ideas? And also, it's going to take confidence, like I say. It's coming out of the comfort zone. It's believing in yourself. It's certainly not an easy thing to do. And to be resilient. So I always say that with particularly working on your personal brand, it's having the long game in mind. So you may not see some wins straight away. You may not see opportunities come your way from the work we're doing, the content you're creating, but over time that will really start to happen for you. So just being resilient and having that long game is so important. So what are some ways that you can work on your personal brand and begin to stand out and begin to really position yourself in a strong position for potential employers? Things that are going to really stand out on your CV, capture the attention. First of all, it's by creating content, finding your voice and being consistent. And again, it does require coming out of the comfort zone. So you can very much start small just by engaging on tech Twitter, LinkedIn posts, commenting on different people's blog posts, YouTube videos, asking questions on these blog posts, sharing these posts to your own network with a few comments. So that's a really good way just to start small and to build that confidence. But then can you turn your learning process, your experiences, into blog series or video series? Could you create a vlog almost on YouTube? So for example, you're learning something new, document that in a series. Now you may think at times that this isn't going to add any value to anyone. Why would anybody read my learning experience? But I can honestly assure you that someone out there who reads that, it will benefit them. If they're interested in learning that technology, if they're on this journey as well, it will really give them that reassurance. So have you attended a course or a boot camp? Can you review that experience in a blog post, a LinkedIn post, via Twitter? Again, could you create a video about that experience and the really positive things, the wins that you had from that, and just an overall summary? Have you worked on a recent project? Can you share your lessons learned and your knowledge within that as well, and your real achievements? Just always think about how you can add value. Even actually just by sharing your own journey into technology, how you started, the tools you used, the resources you used to help you when it comes to maybe interview preparations, anything at all. Your own experiences can add value. And if you're speaking about your own experiences and topics you really care about, there is no right or wrong in this. It can be really daunting, but like I say, if you're doing something that you care about, and if you have the mindset of, if you can help at least one person with these things, then you're doing the right thing. and also have the mindset that everything you're doing, no matter how time consuming it can be, no matter how tedious it can be, this is going to benefit you potentially for job opportunities and for so much more. And it really is going to enrich your career. Also on LinkedIn, can you share a case study, like I say, of a challenge or a solution that you've recently worked on? Can you share an overview of an event that you've also attended? So, for example, a meetup. Can you just do a series on that, your experience here? Also, podcasts is a really good one. So, if you're really into podcast series or podcasts on technologies, different areas that you're passionate about, once you've listened to a podcast episode, can you share that and also do your own summary and the key takeaways that you learn and recommend it to your network? Again, you're just continually planting that seed as being seen as someone who really values sharing inspiration and knowledge. And that's so important to companies moving forwards. It shows to companies that you're confident, you're able to share these things. And again, it builds such a good portfolio for you to share with potential companies that's outside of your CV. So let's say you was applying for a role. You could say on your CV, check out my blog series here, my YouTube channel where I talk about XYZ. I feel that my experience here can really add value to your culture as well, because I noticed that you're using XYZ and you value this. So again, it's just really good for conversation starters as well. Also, you can look into volunteering. So this is really about valuing the community. And again, this kind of stuff highlights to companies that you're really committed to going the extra mile. You're willing to invest your own time to support and inspire others. So this is really important. Again, for your own personal gain, you're going to be gaining hands-on experience. You're going to be making an impact to people's lives. You're networking, so it opens up, again, so much opportunity for you, whether that be other job opportunities from people that you've been collaborating with on these volunteering initiatives that you've had good experience with. You're able to learn yourself along the way. You can be involved with hackathons, non-profits. The possibilities really are endless. I just shared a few different initiatives that are in the UK that would be worth maybe looking into and seeing how you can support their missions and get involved. But whatever is relevant to you and your core values and the things you're passionate about, that's the important thing. Also, when it comes to volunteering, some amazing companies support these different initiatives. So like I say, it's a great opportunity to build relationships with people who could be working at these companies and maybe get the heads up on job opportunities that they're not even advertising yet, and get those referrals and recommendations. Also, could you potentially set up your own initiative? That's an interesting one. Next, it's about upskilling and side projects. So I'm a big fan of ABL, always be learning. Obviously, you're going to benefit from this from a personal perspective. You're going to enrich yourself when it comes to learning new things. But it also enables you to really provide some tangible examples to organizations to include on your CV that could really make up for any skill gaps when it comes to job descriptions and requirements. So a really good tool to show that you're quite active in this space. Again, it highlights your commitment and your passion. It shows that your potential employer, how committed you are, how passionate you are about learning, about being proactive in this, and that you're willing to invest hours outside of just day to day. So you're going the extra mile again. And if you can't show the work that you're doing in your current company, for example, because of non-disclosure agreements, again, you can make it happen outside. You can work on personal projects, on open source. You can provide examples and again, make up for that skill gap. And going into an interview scenario, it puts you in a really good position, because you can say, look, I really acknowledge the fact I can't share too much about what I'm doing here in my current company, but to make up for that, I've been doing this, because I'm really passionate to show you what I'm made of and my skills. And I feel that it can impact you because of X, Y, Z. So again, you're just always backing things up with good explanations, good self-reflection, and then tangible examples. I think it's important to be selective though, to show focus. I've seen some people go wrong where they choose just too much variety of things, and it kind of shows to some companies that maybe you don't really know what you want or what direction you're heading. So once you've found these areas, these sweet spot for you, is really chime in on those and focus on those. Also, a great opportunity to find potential open source projects is through tech Twitter, many different groups, hackathons to build stuff to showcase. Really great tools if used the right way. GitHub is, of course, a really big one. It enables you to have access to production level code before you even have a job sometimes, or you even have experience in a certain area, production experience that is. So it just continually shows that you're industry ready. It enables you just to have a lot of fun, show progression, and there's such a strong community around it with many different initiatives. Really fun and energizing, and you can collaborate. And again, you're able to get feedback on your code, so always being able to improve your quality with this. Contributing can be quite overwhelming at times, so again, it's just important to start small, to build up. But somebody that I want to share that I really recommend you all checking out is Ellie King. Really fantastic channel, great content, really inspirational on all things GitHub, open source, and so much more, and how you can really make your profile stand out for potential employers as well. So I really recommend that. He does actually have a free course on how you can make your GitHub profile stand out, and just does some really cool interviews. Also, for anyone who maybe isn't contributing already on GitHub, I saw a really great tweet from a lady called Emma Dawson, who's in Sweden, and her Twitter is Emma Learns Code. But some ways that you can contribute, and that she mentioned, was by finding and raising issues, improving documentations, adding translations, fixing bugs, reviewing others' pull requests, and just by starting a discussion. So you don't necessarily have to put your own project out there straight away, but just engaging, just becoming more active on this is really important, because the company that you want to work for next, or you may be interviewing at, they could actually maybe have a GitHub page. So can you actually maybe create a comment on that beforehand and bring that up into an interview scenario? Again, it just shows that you're doing your research, you're actually passionate and care about this company. Next is around events and meetups and conferences. So you're already very much on the right direction, attending TechNomads. But yeah, just really utilizing that as much as you can, becoming a recognized figure in the spaces that you care about the most, that you would uncover from your self-reflection. It's such a powerful tool to engage, to learn, again, to network. You can exchange ideas, share challenges, uncover solutions. Again, it can be sometimes overwhelming when we have life, work, everything else. So really take advantage of things being virtual as well. They have some really cool networking sessions on virtual events where you can have an avatar in a virtual space, and you go up to one another, and basically both of your cameras and your microphones come on, and then you're able to start speaking. And you don't have to have your microphone on or camera, but it just is a good way to break down sometimes that stigma of approaching lots of people in a crowded room. And maybe once you'll familiarize yourself with doing that, you then become more confident in a much larger conference or summit setting. Think about, can you volunteer at these events and meetups as well? Because these are great things to put on your LinkedIn profile, your CV, to be, again, like using for your personal brand to create content on. And your top three, when I say that, you may have top three companies that you really want to work for, that you're really, really keen to be a part of. So just keep a watchful eye on these businesses, because they could be really active in hosting a lot of meetups and events. And it's such a good way for you to potentially go to their office, have an inside scoop as to how it looks, inside information on the business and what's going on, network with their employees, and just really highlight your interest in the business, which in turn could lead to so many great opportunities. So again, like, it's just that concept of being proactive in this and being accountable and taking it into your own hands. And also, again, it just really builds your confidence. So I just want to talk a little bit about networking, because there was a point raised around how to build a network online. And I think it's important to go over this because sometimes there can be such a stigma around networking. It is such an essential tool for your career development. And I can genuinely say that for me, networking has really changed my life in so many ways. Since I started doing it, the possibilities have really been endless. And it's certainly a way how I've been doing this talk today as well, and many others. But it's so powerful for you to find your tribe, really get a support system where you can share challenges, you can exchange ideas and again solutions. Sometimes you can feel alone with some of the challenges that you're facing, or these feelings of self-doubt, confidence issues, or just always coming up against the same challenges when it comes to interview scenarios. You can speak about those openly when you begin to network and build authentic relationships. And you can really make friends for life, and that's the great thing about it. It again creates so much opportunity, whether that be internally within your own business, training opportunities, promotions, just through networking internally or externally, job leads, reference letters, job search advice, insights into new fields. Again, you can get insights into upcoming meetups, projects, volunteering, mentorship, just through networking. And again, it enables you to really gain confidence and exchange ideas. So key things that I feel are really important when it comes to networking is just being proactive, making it happen, not sitting around and hoping that people are going to come to us, because everybody has their day-to-day life, and as much as we'd like to hope, we're not a priority to them. But who knows, that could well change if you build these good relationships. Being consistent with it. So always thinking about, how can I network into this initiative? How can I have a meaningful conversation with this person? Being authentic, that is absolutely imperative. Being really genuine with your networking, with your approach, with your reasons why. And this is where empathy comes in also, because when it comes to networking, it's not going to work every time. You may approach people online and never hear anything back, but it's important not to take it personally. People do sometimes be inundated with messages, or life just gets in the way, or they're not really active on their socials, and that's okay. So don't take it personally. Just understand that the connections that you do make and the responses you do get, you really want to try and make that as meaningful as possible and value driven. And again, just being resilient with it. So that ties in quite well with what I just mentioned, but understanding it's a process, understanding that building a network takes time. You might not have quick wins or opportunities straight away, but they will certainly come. So I just want to talk about how we can maybe get started with networking. First of all, in my mind, it's completely reframing the term networking, because I think sometimes there's a big stigma around what networking is and what it means, and it can be quite daunting, it can be quite transactional, and it can be quite overwhelming at times. So reframe networking to what it means to you. So for example, being connected with like-minded individuals, being able to really share inspiration and learn from like-minded people. So reframe what networking means and run with that definition that you decide. And always approach every conversation with that in your mind. Not that you're going to be networking with this person, but you're going to be building a meaningful relationship, and it's going to be long lasting, and you're going to have a really positive experience. Start small. So again, networking could be something along being on tech Twitter and just replying to people's tweets and just starting that engagement. So being a little bit more active in that space, or commenting on people's posts, videos, or liking initially people's different posts, and then actually sharing that post directly with the person who created it, and actually just sending them a really short positive message like, hey, I just want to say this really resonated with me because of XYZ, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about this. So finish with a question to try and engage in more conversation, but be really positive and genuine. Take your time. It's important to build your network, but also nurture it. If you want a specific thing from this relationship, don't just go straight in and ask for that. It's important to just make it warm. Be value driven. Give them some positive things, whether it be upcoming events that you feel could benefit them based on their background and their experiences. But just really add a lot of value to them. Show that you're genuine. You're not just connecting with them straight away because you want something straight away. I think that that's really important. Be curious, be personable, show you care, and you're not just wanting something. If you have connected for a specific reason, maybe create some touch points where every month put in your calendar a reminder to just resync with this person. Maybe it's about sharing something that you've learned, or a meetup, and then after a few weeks of doing that, maybe put the calendar invite in there to actually then ask the thing that you wanted from them because you've taken that time. Like I say, just always have a value-driven approach and be different. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Show your personality. Take a different approach. Can you send them a video message initially as opposed to just general messages? Something that's really helped me and a lot of other people that I work with when it comes to being on top of networking and really building that online network is creating like a networking shortlist. And this is something that you can have open throughout your day, and you can just continually add to it as you see people online. Maybe they're on LinkedIn, they've done some cool posts, add them to this list. People that you've met at events, add them to this list. It can be as long as you like, but it's a great shortlist for you to just make sure that you're keeping on top of this. So for example, putting the name of the person, their position, their company, and their location, just so you know where that is. Sharing all of their social links. That could also be blog posts as well, things like that, anything that they're quite active on. And take the time to actually reflect on what you feel your common interests are. Maybe they list specific keywords on their LinkedIn profile that resonate with you. Maybe they blog about specific areas. Maybe they do videos on certain technologies and ways of working. Put those in the common interests so it's your reminder and your kind of aid as to how to personalize these conversations. Write down your objective as well, the thing that you actually would like from them in the long run, whether that just be to connect and to build a meaningful conversation, or maybe be a job opportunity, or network into volunteering. It can be whatever you like. And just keep notes on when you've approached them, how you've approached them, and if you've had any outcome yet. So by keeping it almost in the yellow color, it's a good aid for you that you still haven't kind of got where you wanted with that. So to go back and to keep going and chipping away at that maybe every 2 weeks. But it's a really good chance for you to just continually reflect, look at your network, have touch points to go back to this as well. And because networking is a continual process, it never really ends and it should never stop. And as you build your lists, you can maybe create more specific lists based on certain technologies, certain communities, certain businesses. But just be sure to check in as well, like the ones that you have in green. Again, that's a really good, I guess, aid for you to remember to go back to this person every so often and keep being value driven. Next is LinkedIn connections or requests. So this is quite a big one. I see a lot on tech Twitter. I speak to a lot of people who just receive connection requests and no messages. And it may sound like a really small thing, but it can make a huge difference as to whether or not you actually connect with this person, how they feel about you, because first impressions are really important, right? And especially when it comes to building a personal brand, you want to almost have a long-lasting impression or at least be remembered. So try to build a strong and purposeful community on LinkedIn. I'm not saying you have to connect with absolutely everyone. It can be people who simply align with your own values and you feel will enrich your timeline. But don't just send out a connection request to people you want to reach out to. It's really important to take the time to tailor each individual. It might take a few extra minutes, it might get a bit tedious, but like I say, it does make a big difference. So can you research, first of all, any common groups that you have, any mutual connections, any similar likes on their page, or do they have similar keywords to you? So again, specific technologies that align to your own values or common interests. Be really genuine, tailor it, and always add their name as well. Some people tend to put an emoji at the beginning of their name on LinkedIn, and that is for bot purposes, I believe, at times, because sometimes people use these platforms that just send out automated connection requests, and it includes the emojis on the name. So just make sure to put their name, how it reads, and just be really genuine in this approach. So I've just put an example here of like an approach that I've seen be quite receptive and do quite well. And at the end, like actually ask a question, try and engage, get them to come back to you and respond to that, which can then lead on to so many more questions and so much more exciting conversation. But like I said, again, it may not happen with every connection request you send, and that's okay. Everyone has different interpretations, different value with their own network. But as long as you know you've done everything you can in tailoring it and being specific, then it just happens. Next is looking at networking when it comes to events. Preparing questions can be a really great way to go in there almost with a game plan on how you view networking when you reframe it, building meaningful connections, having inspiring, empowering conversations. So questions that I found to work quite well, particularly for people who may feel like they are slightly introverted, because I also hear the challenge so often that I'm a real introvert, this isn't for me, I'm out of my depth, I don't know where to begin. But by simply going up to somebody and actually saying, no, hey, what brings you here? What do you hope to get out of this event? What cool things are you working on right now? It can go a long way. If you actually ask questions that gets them talking a lot more, it can ease those nerves and break down that barrier. Talk about what they want, ask them questions. So preparing questions is a really important one, I would say. Even if you actually go to the event with a notebook, write them in the notebook. And before you think to approach them, or maybe quickly go over that, it's okay. This isn't a memory test. Take a look at the attendees beforehand. Some events you're able to have visibility of that, like on Meetup, and maybe see if you can connect with these people through LinkedIn and actually say, hey, I'm also attending this event. I'd love to connect with you there and talk about XYZ. Maybe we could grab a coffee there. So you're already preempting making some great conversations, and it's going to be a much warmer connection. And it takes, again, that breaks down that stigma. More important as well, just take a deep breath. Just really take a deep breath before you're going into these events. It can be quite, again, overwhelming. It can be quite daunting. But actually, just be honest with these people. If this is your first ever big summit that you're going to, go up to somebody and approach them and say, hey, you know, I'm actually quite nervous. This is my first real big summit, and I wanted to approach you and ask how your experience has been on this, or is this your first event? What advice can you share for me? Just be really honest about it. Can you bring a friend as well, just to make things a bit more comfortable for you? Again, starting small. And just smile and have fun. Just realize that everything is a lesson learned. You'll have so much adrenaline after attending like big summits or conferences and having done some networking. And sometimes we can build things up and they can seem a lot worse in our minds than what they are in reality. So just give thought to that as well. Don't put pressure on yourself also. If you go in there with this big plan, this big elaborate networking plan, but you don't approach anybody, that's okay. Okay, the first step is just going there, attending. Again, lessons learned, you can do that next time. But also I would say to follow up. So the people that you have these conversations with at the events and you connect with, follow up through LinkedIn, through email, depending on how you make contact with them, if they give you a business card. Just be sure to follow up on that. And also, something that I've seen work quite well actually at events, particularly if maybe you do feel like you are more of an introverted individual, it's can you draw people to you? So can you wear like a quirky t-shirt that, or have you got a t-shirt that you've worn out before and people have commented on, said, hey, that's really cool, really quirky. Is it tech related? Is it like a tech humor type t-shirt? Can you wear that? And who knows, it might make people approach you at the event like, hey, really cool t-shirt. It's a conversation starter at least. So yeah, I just want to go over the mindset one last time of how to build a network online and just in general. You're not alone in sometimes feeling like you're introverted or feeling just quite exhausted with having to network and feeling very overwhelmed. So it's important to just be really honest with yourself when networking, to set boundaries and goals of what you want to achieve. Maybe set a goal of you want to attend an event once every quarter. Just focus on that. Don't overwhelm yourself too much. Take the time for you to re-energize, to recharge. But again, just really focus on others. So ask questions, praise them, point out something that you like about what they've done with their work in the past, maybe through research that you did before attending an event. And think about your personal brand. So if you're working on your personal brand, people might actually start approaching you at these events also and comment on, hey, I actually saw a video you created, which is a really nice feeling and really reassuring. I would say it can be quite fearsome approaching someone. I've been there myself. I attended the Women in Data Science conference in Stockholm, and this was honestly about 4 years ago before I really got involved in face-to-face networking. And it was a bit much for me. I actually went and stood in the bathroom for a good 15 minutes to just regather my thoughts and kind of take a few deep breaths, because it was a little bit overwhelming. So don't be afraid to, at these different events, just take time for you as well. It's okay. You are really important. But also reflect on yourself. So the self-reflection exercise that we did, that's just a continual reminder that you are a great person, you have these strengths. So look back on that before you go into an event as well. I want to talk a little bit about job descriptions, because I get asked about this quite a lot. It's particularly when companies have these big shopping lists of requirements that they expect from individuals. So I actually want to share a quote from a CTO that we work directly with. It's always nice to find someone with the perfect experience of our stack, but what's more important is a really humble and curious mindset. So if you do not know something, are you the type of person who wants to learn? Are you working on personal projects? If so, that would also be interesting. So I would say don't overstress about being the perfectly qualified candidate. You have to really think, does this person even really exist? So there's a few things to consider before even making an application to a job description. Take the time to research. Really try to uncover the company's pain points. What are their needs? What are their challenges? And you may be able to uncover this through the job descriptions, through maybe blog posts that they've been doing. Really take the time to look into their values as a business that they tend to list on the career page. Can you look at employees who are already working at these companies through LinkedIn and have a look if you have common interests? And can you provide tangible examples as to how their values align with your own? And write these down before you've even applied for the job, because this is going to help you to tailor and customize your application. Can you also network potentially with people who are already working at this company? So let's say you've started to build some strong connections with people in the business. Can you actually ask them outright, say, hey, I'd love to learn more about some of the challenges that you're working on. This is what I'm working on. Be cool to share ideas. And this information that they share with you will be really powerful for you to use in an interview scenario with this business potentially, or again, to tailor and customize your CV. Think about how can you fill in the gaps as well. So let's say, for example, you want to apply for a medtech business. Although you're missing medtech industry experience, you love medtech and you've done many personal projects in this. So that's how you can fill in that industry gap experience. Or can you take certifications, work on, like I say, open source, online projects? How can you fill in these gaps? And remember, culture is as important as the tech. So from what they describe, do you feel it aligns with your personality, with you as an individual? Because you want to be in a business where you feel you can belong, and that's equally as important. So we've taken the time to actually, I guess, research before making a job application. And now it's the application, which can be quite daunting at times. So I want to talk to you about a few different areas, just cover letter and CV. Now for cover letter, some companies, this isn't necessarily a requirement. And if that isn't the case, then absolutely fine. You do not need to attach that. But I do just want to go over it just in case there may be this instance. Another quote from a CTO that we work with is, "We receive hundreds of applications and recruitment is only a small percentage of my day. I can only invest around 30 seconds of my time on reading a cover letter." So it's important for applicants to understand that they only have a few seconds to connect and to capture my attention. So thinking about your cover letter, always have that in your mind. I would always relate back to the self-reflection exercise. This is where it comes in so handy because you're going to have so much valuable information and insights into you. And I look at your cover letter as your elevator pitch. So let's say, for example, you want to work at Google. You step into Google's office, you go to their elevator, you're on the ground floor. You step into the elevator, the hiring manager of the job that you want to work for in Google steps into there with you. You have from the ground floor until the top floor to explain to them the value you're going to bring to their position and how you're going to enrich their culture. So this is how also you should view your cover letter. So with this, less is more. You really want this to complement your CV. You don't want this to be a copy and paste. You want them to learn something new about you that they wouldn't necessarily take from your CV. And you want to tell a story. And it needs to be very much value driven and a chance for you to share about your personality and characteristics, which sometimes is maybe difficult to really get across in a full CV. So let's talk a little bit about your CV and just some tips that I recommend. And again, this isn't, I guess, my way or the highway. It's very much down to personal preference, but this is what I've seen work really, really well and be successful for people who have got jobs. So I tend to say to limit your CV to 2 pages at most. And it's so important to tailor and customize your CV as well as your cover letter for each individual application you make. Ensure that it's written in the first person, that there's consistent formatting, that there's subheadings and bullet points, and of course that you proofread. You really want it to make it personable. You are not a robot. Humanize things, be different. And of course, you want to ensure that it's an honest reflection of you and your skills. Do not put anything in there that you can't back up, that you can't prove, because that will come round to bite you on the arse later on in an interview scenario. And again, you've got to think about first impressions, your personal brand. You want to be genuine. Don't fear about being creative and standing out. Can you include a quirky quote on your CV? Can you make it very visually aesthetic? Make it stand out. Always think value. Always think, how are you adding value to this business, to what they need? Ensure that it's evidence-based. You're backing everything up, and avoid buzzwords and overused phrases. If you are going to use some of these phrases, then can you just back up what you have done to demonstrate your strength in this. So for example, if you're going to use the word ambitious, how can you back that up? Okay, I set myself the target to learn XYZ in this time frame and achieved this within this remit. Just backing it up. So the CV breakdown, typically this is what I tend to see, is the personal profile about you. Now again, this is where that self-reflection exercise comes in. It's so important. Really good chance to provide an overview into who you are outside of your cover letter, and really go into depth on how you can add value to the position and the organization. It's a chance for you to share your why you specifically want to work for the organization as well. So if there is no need for the cover letter, I'd really recommend putting a bullet point about this on your CV. And it enables you to list your top 3. When I say that, I mean, it's a good opportunity to maybe put your top 3 soft skills and then provide a tangible example that backs that up. And I recommend doing maybe 4 or 5 bullet points on each of these areas, just to highlight and to really make it punchy and powerful. Can you maybe look at linking it to the company and the job ads? So think about the language that they use on their job description and on their company literature as a whole in terms of how they describe their culture. Can you know this language if it aligns with your own? And next is a little bit more about employment history. So this is going beyond just listing your job description. So it's avoiding being generic. So when it comes to each position you've had, can you explain a problem that you've addressed, the action that you took, and the value and the impact, the results that this created? For example, this enabled us to deliver 5% improvement on XYZ project. It's really important to tell a story. So also, could you maybe list the top 3 things that you'd learned from your experience in your employment? So after the bullet points of what you actually did, could you do a lessons learned section, which is quite unique actually. I don't see that too often, but I think it really shows to an employer that you can self-reflect and you're aware. And I would hope that you would then apply that into my organisation, the things that you've learned. So really tell a story and be specific with the technology that you've been using. Always include metrics and value. This is so important. And use action verbs. Things are organised, you engaged, you influenced. These are really important. I want to share what it is that we look for from a technical recruiter perspective when it comes to anybody who's applying for a new job. Of course, this is outside of relevant skills and potentially education if that is a requirement. For me, it's around side projects. Are you active in GitHub, Stack Overflow? Are you really passionate about working on these things? Completely understand we don't have all the time in the world. We have families and other commitments, and that's okay. But it's just nice to see if you are involved in that, or at least trying to get involved in that. You don't have to be doing something every day. How open and involved are you in the community? That to me again shows that you care about giving back, you're volunteering your time, and that's going to be transferable in my business. I'd like to know more about your why. Learning about your values, maybe your journey, your story in any way that I can, if I can take that from your profile. Tangible examples of things that I'm always looking for, that you're backing up the things that you say. If I can see about your characteristics as well, how you value learning, are you doing courses, certifications, the fact that you're always sharpening the knife when it comes to your skills, and are you working on your personal brand? Really, really important. Also, something that I tend to look for, and so do many other companies, is how long have you been in a specific position for? So are you somebody that has been quite a job hopper, has been in one business for 5 months, another for 7 months, and you can't necessarily give an explanation as to why that is? It just didn't work out. Ideally, we tend to look for like a minimum of 2 years in a business. I think that's quite a good starting point But we also understand that things happen. Sometimes companies can go under, culturally things can't work out. So as long as you can actually provide a real solid explanation as to why you may have been in businesses a slightly shorter amount of time, then that's absolutely fine as well. Again, just be honest. So let's talk a little bit about actually now making an application, sending your CV. How can we minimize that rejection? So like with your CV and cover letter, it's tailoring and customizing. I can't stress this enough. You are not a job application robot sending your same CV to all of these different jobs. It's so important to take the time to analyze the company's pain points, their values, and what's important to them. Reflect on how you can add value to that, and like I say, provide the tangible examples. Yes, it can be time consuming, it can be really tedious, but it will be so worth it. You have to think short-term pain, long-term gain. The smallest of things really can make the biggest of difference. You'll be surprised. It goes a long way. So once you've started tailoring and customizing, before you've even shared your application, I always recommend to get feedback and to review this. So share it with close friends, family, or even colleagues who may be aware that you're looking for something new. People just that you really trust and you really value their opinion, but also that you know they'll be quite honest with you, because sometimes we can build a bit of an emotional attachment to our CV and think, oh, it's fantastic. And we need to hear some feedback every now and again on things we can tweak. Not the easiest thing in the world to hear, but it's all for the right reasons. So actually share this with people and say, hey, I'm thinking of applying to this role. How do you feel my CV reads? If you read the job description, does it look relevant? Do you think this could capture their attention? Would I stand out from your opinion? And of course, they're not the hiring manager, but it's just good to get that another perspective. Diversification, of course, applying to more positions that, yes, are aligned to what you want to do and your values, enables you to have hopefully more feedback and more practice, whether that be interview scenarios, which is always a great thing to do. If you just want to maybe be open to what's out there on the market and just gain some industry experience when it comes to interviewing again, then what's holding you back? Go for it. You have to be selfish and put your own personal development and growth into your own hands. And if you feel that that's going to benefit you, great, do it. And who knows, the company you interview at could really surprise you and you may decide you really want to work for them. Network as well. So similar to what we've discussed, but can you connect with people who are working in the company you want to apply for? Can you openly speak to them about the job description, or just approach it in a very genuine way? Ask for some advice potentially, or what they enjoy the most about working in the business. Think about other company hosting any events that are coming up. Can you attend to them? Can you attend them? And again, can you get speaking to people in the business and just really voice the fact that you'd love to work for them because of XYZ? Some companies have some great referral schemes as well. So it's going to benefit a potential employee of that business if they get some kind of monetary gain from that by referring you. Not only will they get that benefit, but they'll get you as a new teammate, which is really great. And again, just be proactive, come out of the comfort zone, book some time in your calendar to maybe keep going over this before you've even sent your CV. And just really be resilient. Know that every job application, every CV you send, you might not get feedback. And just try and use any failure as fuel to motivate you to do better. And look at the process as a lesson learned. And you're only going to grow from this, you're only going to benefit from it. If it doesn't work out in one business, then it wasn't meant to be, and that's okay. There will be other things out there for you. And as cliche as it sounds, things do happen for a reason. So yeah, analyze maybe where you did go wrong if things don't work out, or why you got rejected, or if they do give you some feedback, really take that on board and try and apply that moving forwards. I like to use J.K. Rowling as an example, and this is my complete Harry Potter nerd coming out. But J.K. Rowling, she pitched for Harry Potter 12 times to publishers, and it was rejected 12 times. And now look at how successful the brand is, the franchise, the films, everything about it. So just don't give up, keep going and being persistent. So we've sent our application, we've customized it, we've tailored it. Now we have an interview request. Okay, what do we do? Where do we begin? How do we prepare? Nerve-wracking feeling. First of all, it's about research. Take that time again. So what would be really valuable is the research that you do on the job description. Make sure you write that down and you have it in a notebook, you have it in a document on your laptop, computer, wherever it may be. And keep that safe, because this is going to be so powerful for you to use for your research before your interview. Again, understanding their mission, the pain points, the culture, values. Can you check out their company blog if they have one? Are they on YouTube providing content and videos? Do they tweet a lot? Are they sharing articles on Twitter that you can mention in the interview? Check Glassdoor. They share some really good reviews here of the interview scenarios, so you can get the heads up on how the process may look. Can you look into and research the industry that they're working in and some of the challenges that their competitors are having at the moment? Something that I always like doing as well is actually Google search the company name and then hit the news tab, and that can sometimes share like all of the recent articles about the company that you can pick up on and look into. Do they have a GitHub project? Can you make a comment on that? Can you collaborate and bring that up in the interview scenario? And just take the time to think, why do you want this job? You know, really think about that and tailor your answers. Make it specific, so you're going into the interview really just having an understanding of why you want it, especially if they put you on the spot and ask you this. Just be kind, be genuine, of course, and be humble. That's really important in the interview scenario. But don't fear why as well. Ask questions. Interaction is absolutely key. It just shows curiosity. If you deliver it in the right way and you want to understand why they work in a specific way, how it's added value to them, how it's benefited them, then ask. And don't get hung up on what you can't do. Really be confident on your ability and your achievements. Reflect back on the self-reflection task, aligning it to their business. Just really focus on the great things that you've done as an individual. I always say to have in mind 5 key areas to cover when it comes to questions. Talking about the company, the position, the tech and tools, the team and culture, and the education. You want to be remembered for the right reasons in your interview. So apply research to specific questions. So let's say you want to learn more about a project. Maybe research and see if you can find out anything about the project already, and bring that up in the interview and say, hey, I noticed that you're working on this project and you've been facing these challenges. I'd love to learn more about that. Or how have you overcome those? So again, it just shows that you're doing that research. Also, go into the interview with a notepad. Write down these questions beforehand. This is not a memory test. So that's really important. I think sometimes we fear that we'll be judged by going in there with a notebook, but that really isn't the case. And sometimes the interview scenario can go so fast that we forget to ask the questions that were a real priority to us. So if you do go in with a notebook and you have your questions written down, prioritize them, write them in order from highest to lowest. So you can literally just quickly have a look at your page and know to go from top to bottom, so you won't miss out those real key ones that are important to you. Just view the interview scenario as an open conversation. You're speaking with like-minded individuals who have similar interests to you, and it's going to be a really valuable conversation. Again, it's that reframing what an interview means and that definition, similar to what we did with networking. And it can really help because it can just really calm down the scenario, calm down the nerves, and enable you to have a much more valuable conversation and get a lot more out of it. And I always say as well to link your questions to your motivations. So you're just always reinforcing to the person that is interviewing you the things that you really value the most, so they're not going to forget that. For example, earlier we spoke about my passion for studying in my free time. Maybe you can again name drop the things that you've done. What kind of employee education programs do you offer? How involved is the team in the community? And I want to share some questions that I found to be really valuable in an interview scenario to just make sure you're getting the most out of your time. You're getting as much information as you can. So asking about the company goals, both short and long term, a day in the life at the organisation as well. So what would their expectations be of you? What are some of the current challenges that they're facing in the business specifically or in the team? Current projects and projects in the pipeline. Again, if you've already done some research on these things and you know a little bit about them, mention that and go in detail into these specifics, so you're not kind of going in blind and showing that you haven't done any research. But ask as well about the interviewer's experience at the organisation so far. So understand what is the best thing that they have delivered in terms of value. What has been their biggest challenge? How did they overcome that? How has their experience been so far in the business? A really proud moment for them. How they view the culture. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback. This is a really important one. I've seen many people shy away from this, maybe because they don't want to hear the feedback, or they feel that it might offend, or it might give the wrong impression. But actually, this just really is going to help you, benefit you moving forwards, and really help you architect this process and give you some element of control to know what direction it's going to be heading. So based on our discussion, how well do you think I would fit into the team culture? Are there any gaps in my experience that you are concerned about? If they mention anything there and then, you can hopefully give them some reassurance by providing examples and explanations that just gives them more that peace of mind. And I think that's a really important one. And when will you make a hiring decision? Again, it's just good for you to know. And just from a cultural perspective, understanding the environment and whether it could be a good fit for you, here are some questions I've seen work really well to give you that good idea. So what is the best thing about working in the business? Can you please tell me more about the people I'll be working with? If you've done some research, you could mention a few names of the employees, or if they've been doing talks at different meetups, you could say, I've actually seen that some of the team members, this person did a presentation at this meetup, and it really inspired me, and they seem to be colleagues that I would work really well with, and I'd love to learn more about them. Could you tell me more? What 3 words would best describe the working culture? How do you celebrate success in the teams and the wider organisation as well? What is the community involvement? So create questions around that. So relate this back to your research if possible. If you see that they collaborate with a lot of non-profits, can you mention this and try and dig a bit deeper into that? Or just how they really give back? Are they focused on sustainability? Have you seen that from your research? Can you shape questions around that? And the same with the values. So have you seen their values listed on their company page? Mention these in the interview to show that you're aware of them, but dig deeper into these and base your questions around that. And again, like I said at the beginning, this is where the self-reflection task ties in really well, because you can bring up your own values for the questions. Also, how has the company handled employee suggestions or complaints in the past? Examples of career development. So can they share like a case study of somebody who's come in and how they've grown, the learning process, the resources they've been given to learn? And how is diversity, inclusion and equity valued? Can they elaborate on any initiatives that they have internally that they're working on? I think that's always really important, because diversity just enables us to be so much more creative, productive, and share ideas and just learn from one another. It enriches us in so many ways. I want to share some resources that I found to be really helpful when it comes to preparing for technical interviews. So my background isn't actually coding, I don't have a computer science degree, but I've seen that these platforms have been really helpful for a lot of the people that I support when it comes to the technical interview preparation. So the Tech Interview Handbook, this is a guide for busy engineers. It's a step-by-step guide on how to prepare. It provides study and practice plans, best practices, techniques to solve questions. It covers so many areas. So I really recommend checking that out, and it's free. Also, Twitter is great. If you actually search on Twitter, technical interview preparation or technical interview prep, you will see so many people's tweets about what's worked for them, different resources from engineers who are working in businesses. So I recommend that as well. And also, this could be a great opportunity for you to then start the engagement. If you actually take on somebody's tip, reply to their tweet and say, hey, actually I used this and it was so valuable, thank you, and follow on with a question. Interview bit, this is completely free and real-time mock interviews. So there are expert selected questions as per your unique interview requirements. Pramp is a really great platform as well, free of charge. There is interview scenario, technical interview scenarios. They focus on data structure and algorithms, behavioral, system design, front end, data science, and Gainlow. This is a platform where software engineers can participate in mock tech interviews with software engineers from big tech companies. So these are just a few resources. There are so many out there, but a lot of the people that I work with really champion these. So I hope that they can add value. Maybe you're already familiar with them. So we've gone through the interview process. We've done fantastically and we have an offer. I want to talk a little bit about salary negotiation. And I'm very much a believer of the quote, you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. So when it comes to salary negotiation, it's really going to take a mindset shift. It will take practice, going over maybe the conversation in your mind or having that conversation with colleagues. It takes preparation and of course strategies. So first of all, you want to research and network. So you want to really take research and speak to people in your industry. Know what real looks like at your level. So can you search on Glassdoor? Again, can you look at tech Twitter? Can you look on YouTube at videos that people share who work in a similar space to you, in a similar area? There are many videos out there regarding like average salaries or salaries, like very open videos on that. Can you use Google? Can you network? So with your network, people that you've started building these meaningful partnerships and relationships with, can you actually say to them, hey, I'm actually in a situation where I'm reviewing my salary and where I'm at, potentially for new job roles or just for a salary review internally. How comfortable would you be having quite an open conversation with me about this? Because I'd like to learn more, or I'm really struggling to see what the market average is saying. If you'll speak to people who have a similar background to you and network with these types of people, I think you'll be surprised. Like, you could actually get some really valuable information from this. Again, not everyone is going to feel comfortable in speaking about that, and that's okay. You have to respect that. But just by being really honest and open about it, I think can go a long way. Can you seek advice from recruiters as well, who have quite a good idea of like market average salaries? And know your worth. So the research that you do, make it both quantitative and qualitative as well. Collate that data into an overwhelming set of data to present as well, for when you are asking for a potential salary. If you do need to, for whatever reason, have to justify that, you're backing it up. Believe in your strengths, your ability, your potential. Have the confidence and clarity to ask. So always go back to that self-reflection, not only on what you said about yourself, but what your friends, what your family have said, and just remember that you are worth this salary. Think of the bigger picture as well. Compensation, of course, isn't just financial. It's also about personal growth, about development. So don't think maybe about the next few months, think of the next few years. I've seen the common mistakes where people will receive 3 or 4 offers, and sometimes they will accept the offer that has the highest salary. Um, Short term, that's great. You can treat yourself, you can have a better lifestyle, which of course is really important, especially with how the cost of living is rising. But I've seen people do that. They take that higher salary and they've been very plateaued in their career. They haven't been able to learn. They haven't had resources. They haven't had collaboration. They've been accountable for themselves and actually felt quite lonely in that sense. I've seen people take slightly initially a lower salary and actually go on to achieve a lot more than people who took the higher salary first, just in terms of that learning, that progression, that growth. So this is something to really importantly consider when you're going to make that decision on your next offer, and when you're going to ask for an offer as well, because you want to know how you can learn and how you can grow. And just really take an interest-based negotiation approach. So instead of focusing on yourself as well, focus on the why of the business, their needs, their desires, maybe what concerns they may have, potentially if you are asking for a certain salary. It will allow more solutions where each person gets their needs and desires met, or their concerns and fears addressed as well. I want to thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate I've been speaking for quite a while and it's quite an information overload, a lot to take in. So what I'd love to actually offer to all of you, if you wanted to dive into any topics deeper, if you wanted to go over your CV and have feedback, is a completely free one-on-one session, 30-minute call, and we can go over anything that you'd like to discuss in more detail. So please get connected with me if that's something you'd like to do. Get connected with me anyway, but if you want the one-on-one session, just reach out and I'd be very happy to book that in. And please feel free to follow our Equal IT Company LinkedIn page. That would mean so much. And check out the Equal Inspired podcast. We're available on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube as well. So yeah, I'd love to open up for any questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Ellie.
You're very welcome. Shall I stop sharing my screen?
It's up to you. I'll continue recording for a little while.
Okay.
So, yeah, maybe you can keep it on there for a little while.
Yeah, I'll keep it on there. No worries.
I guess, yeah, I had a question. Like, when talking to people, so say like you kind of are interested in a particular company. You put some really great questions on what kind of things to ask during the interview and how to talk to people who work for the business. But I guess what's the best way to kind of get a feel for the company culture and whether you would be a good fit there?
Okay. So first of all, I would say it's really about that research that you're doing. I think sometimes you can get a gut feeling as to whether or not you feel this could be a good position for you. Let's say, for example, you are a woman in the industry and you're looking on the website and everything seems very like male dominated, a little bit of maybe a bro culture. All of the photos are all of men. That would make me maybe question whether or not that could be an environment that you would feel like you would belong. I think that it's important to give everybody an opportunity though and go into an interview. But I would say that understanding whether the culture or the environment is a right fit for you is probably focusing more so on these questions. So actually trying to get a gauge from them around how they celebrate their successes, how they handle different conflicts and complaints. So really honing in on these questions, I feel will give you that feeling of how the culture looks and that good understanding. I think, of course, as well, there is only so much you can take from an interview scenario on the culture. You're really going to get that full experience when you're in the business, you're working there. So can you also have a look on maybe YouTube as well and see if they actually share any like day in the life videos about the culture at the business. Also have a look on Glassdoor I would say that's a really good tool. It can give you a good insight into a business before you've even gone to the interview. And some of the things that you see people have been saying from a cultural perspective on Glassdoor, use those as questions actually in the interview scenario, and actually say, hey, I read this on Glassdoor. What's your thoughts on this? Or how are you now doing things differently?
Okay, great. That sounds really good. Thank you.
No worries.
I had a. If you can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, I can.
Basically specific to what you were saying before, I think you had a quote from the CTO that said something about 30 seconds on a cover letter. So you may not be able to answer this, but what kind of things, like, I don't know, what kind of things would you cover in those, say, in that elevator talk, for example, because you can't put everything right.
Yeah.
What kind of things are the most successful in terms of what grabs the attention the most to put you in the small pile? So
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, once you've done your research on the company, you'll start to understand maybe what things are really important to them or what things they value the most. So, in a sense, you want to try and add that into your cover letter, but relate it to the things that you've been doing. So, I would say certainly things that you've been doing on your personal brand as well is something to really home in on a cover letter. If, like I say, if they don't ask for a cover letter, please put that on your CV. You want to be shouting about the great things that you've been doing, because it shows again that you're just very active, you're passionate, you care about these things, and you could actually use that as an example and say, hey, I've been doing XYZ. I feel like this can really add value to your team culture, as I love sharing inspiration and knowledge, and I know that you really value collaboration, as I saw on your website, something along those lines. So anything that you've been doing from like a personal brand perspective that you feel aligns to the company and their mission would be really good to add in here. Also, of course, like any projects that you've worked on that you feel were very specific to their challenges, again, I would try and add that into the cover letter. Doesn't have to be a huge paragraph into what it is you've done, but just something quite punchy and relating it back to how it can add value to them. And just really, I would say, why or how you feel you can add value to this position. I think that's really important, and that's why we need to tailor and customize each cover letter, because everyone will be slightly different. I hope that that's helped in a sense. I'd be very happy maybe to go over a job description that you're interested in, and we can talk a little bit more about how to really define cover letter and the things that could be important to go over, if you would, if you feel you'd benefit from that.
I mean, at the moment it's fine, but like, yeah, that's I think the three things you said, yeah, they make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the branding and how it adds value to the company, I think, is a big one. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I had another question actually. When you see often certain job roles in different companies, often they do actually contain different responsibilities. Like one data scientist role, for instance, in one company might include entirely different like aspects in another company. Obviously, you kind of only have what they share in a job interview and on the job description, but like, is there a way to kind of get a better feel for that at all?
Yeah, I would say completely agree, first of all, Kerry, in terms of that analogy that some companies' perception of data science is very different to others. So there is only so much that you can take from a job spec, from literature, from blog posts. But I would definitely see if you can search if they've been doing blogs on the work they've been doing within data science, and again, the open source projects that they may be doing. That could hopefully give you some kind of indication as to what the real focus within data science is. Is it more statistical, theoretical? Is it more actual working on machine learning models in production? And can you maybe look to attend any events that they may be hosting? Now, of course, this isn't like a regular thing, but can you see if they're hosting anything in that space? Can you see if any of their employees are actually going to be talking at any events? So they don't necessarily need to be hosting their own events, but people from the data science team speaking about the work they've been doing. Can you search on YouTube to see if there have been previous talks published by some of their team at different events? That could be really valuable as well, giving you more of an insight into their projects. And I would say probably the most powerful tool is just through that networking piece. So if you are slowly making connections with people, other data scientists maybe in that company, could you actually just, again, be quite honest and approach them and say, hey, I wondered how data science is actually valued in your team, because everyone's perception is different. This is how it's valued in my team at the moment, and I'd just love to learn a bit more about that. So I think that these are some areas that could hopefully give you that bit more insight. It does take some research, it does take some time, but hopefully that can help.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, cool. I think that's everything. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. It's been really fun. So I'm very grateful for your time and for everybody joining today. So thank you very much. And like I say, please feel free to connect with me. And if there's anything I can do to help, support, advise, you just let me know.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much.